Chapter 1 of Smith's The Wealth of Nations is about the division of labor. And he says a lot of interesting things about it, and he explains it thoroughly. His account of the different tasks that different workers are applied to in the pin factory is classic. I mean, everybody has to read that, and it's perhaps the clearest and most convincing case for the power of the division of labor anywhere. I mean, it's great, but this is not a class in efficiency or a class in economics with history of production, and how labor has become more productive through the use of machinery and division of labor. It's a class in business and ethics, and so one may wonder why exactly you're being asked to read it. Well, that's a very good question. Why are we being asked to read this, and what are these chapters from Smith doing in a business ethics class to begin with? Again, what I try to get across is that we want to provide ourselves with a kind of a theoretical and historical basis for discussing the issue of ethics in business. For a couple of reasons, as I said. One, we want to, just for ourselves, we want to have references, and we want to have general references, and we want to find out also where we stand on these things. And what I've tried to do in the first three readings, broad readings from Smith and R.H. Tawney and Marx and Engels, is to provide us with a certain selection of those broad ideas about the place of ethics in business by providing a certain basis in economic thought and also in the general notion of how ethics might fit into economics. What is the point then that we're interested in terms of division of labor? Well, Smith shows in the first part of the chapter, and most of the chapter, in detail, is a classic account of the division of labor and why it increases productivity. That is, why the total amount of work done by a human being, and therefore, we see from reading later chapters, the amount of wealth that can be produced, what Marx later will call capital. That wealth is employed by the capitalist in certain ways, mostly to make more capital. But what is the interest for us? The upshot of this increase in the productivity of labor, of course, is the amount of wealth, the amount of useful stuff for life that is therefore produced for everyone. And that's where we really get into what we're interested in. If you look later on in chapter 1, I'm working with different page numbers here, but you should have no trouble finding it. He says, "It is the great multiplication of the productions of all the different arts in consequence of the division of labor." Division of labor being the cause of this multiplication of production, which occasions in a well-governed society, and that's an important qualification, isn't it? That universal opulence which extends itself to the lowest ranks of the people. Every workman has a great quantity of his own work to dispose of beyond what he himself has occasion for. That is, the division of labor, because it increases productivity, creates a surplus. That is, the worker in a well-governed society, and we should, wonder what exactly he means by that. But in a well-governed society, the worker will have a great quantity of his own work, that is, the wealth that he has created, to dispose of beyond what he himself has occasion for. That is, beyond the very basic needs of life, sustaining life. And every other workman, being exactly in the same situation, he is enabled to exchange a great quantity of his own goods for a great quantity, or what comes to the same thing, for the price of a great quantity of theirs. That is this notion. Of course, we use money to facilitate the exchange of goods, but what is money after all? But objectified labor, as he put it in Marxist terms, which are very close, I think, in this respect to Smith's terms. Money is just represents a certain quantity of labor, which is the real price of everything. And if we produce more things through our labor, and then we absolutely need to survive, then we can put that wealth into circulation, exchange it with others who also have a surplus to trade with, and we get, what do we get? We get a general opulence. He supplies them with what they have occasion for, and they accommodate him as amply with what he has occasion for. And a general plenty diffuses itself through all the different ranks of the society. That is, of course, a kind of prelude or kind of foreshadowing to this notion of the, the human being as a trading creature who provides for the needs of others in pursuit of meeting his own needs, which we'll get into in more detail later on. But that claim is really the upshot for us, I think, of the first chapter on the division of labor. That is, we're not so interested in the details of how the division of labor actually increases productivity, although they're quite interesting, and you should know this, that his claim is that if the worker concentrates on a single task, he does it with more dexterity and speed, which increases productivity. That there's a savings of time because there's not the movement between one task and another. All one's time is used efficiently if you're concentrated on a single task. And because of the simplification of the productive process that goes on through the division of labor, there's a facilitation of the invention of machinery. And that's an important point. And it may or may not be true if we look historically at how machinery has actually developed. But it does make sense theoretically, at least. That is, if we simplify tasks through the division of labor, where once all the tasks were done in one complex whole by a single person, now those tasks are being broken down into simple, through the process of analysis, simpler tasks. We can think of more easily machines to do those simple tasks than complex tasks that existed before the division of labor. So those things are important. That is, to understand his basic point about how the division of labor increases productivity. But the basic point for us in a class focuses on business ethics is this claim that the division of labor, because it increases productivity, is good for everybody, and that we have a possibility of a general opulence. Now, this notion of the general opulence, of the general wealth, of not creating just wealthy individuals, but a wealthy society, is at the very heart, a part of Smith's message. We should understand that he's got a heart. I mean, he's a moral philosopher in a way, and he wants society to be richer. He wants people to have more things and to not live in need, and he's interested in the way that this is done. How do we actually get a society where everybody, or almost everybody, lives well materially? It's really his goal, and we'll see. He has definite ideas about the best way to get to that goal. But that seems to be the claim. This general opulence can be created in society. We'll move on to the next, and perhaps the most important chapter, chapter 2, about the principle which gives occasion to the division